One of the things I hear a lot about in the Christian community is that we are triune beings, body, mind, and spirit. And I think there's something really helpful about that delineation to be able to say that we are triune beings and that as a result, we ought to give attention to each one of those facets of our human condition. And it's good. We can say, I should be paying attention to what helps me have a healthy body and what helps me have an intellectual positivity, or how can I process things in my spirit to make sure that my soul is doing well. So we have all these various ways to think about our human condition and various places to put our focus. But one of the challenges, and I would even say maybe one of the unintended consequences of that, is that we can get so focused on the fact that we have these three different aspects of us that we almost get to the point where we separate them to the degree that we don't see them as part of a whole. In other words, that every part of ourselves also affects the whole. In other words, what's going on with me spiritually has an effect on what's happening in my thoughts, and what happens in my thoughts has a way of affecting my body. That we are integrated people as much as we are delineated people. And somewhere along the way, I think that part of it has gotten lost. And so as a result, when we're dealing with, let's say, a physical challenge, something like cancer or some other life-altering disease, we can get so focused on the physical side of the equation that we lose sight of all the ways in which our spirit and our mind can affect what's going on with our body. So we can say, I want to make sure I have the right health and fitness protocols. I want to make sure that I have the best doctors and I'm seeing the best medical team. I want to attend to all the things that are related to being a healthy person and fighting off cancer and eating right and supplements and sleep. And again, I think there's something great about being attentive to all of that. But what we can miss is that the way that I'm thinking or what's going on in my soul is equally significant in terms of my health and my longevity. And I think that many of us, and I'll put myself in this camp, many of us can, do pretty good when it comes to, all right, here's what I need to adjust physically. And if you've been around the church, here are the things that help nurture the soul, go to church, read the Bible, pray, all of those things. But when it comes to our thoughts and our emotions and what's going on in our mind, at that point, I'm not sure we're as skilled or adept at processing that and understanding the impact that that has on our overall well-being. And I don't know if it's just a guy thing, maybe it's just me, maybe it's because I'm a, older guy and I'm not used to doing this. But I have had to really focus in on trying to figure out what is going on in my thoughts and emotions and how is that impacting my present condition. And because that's been a challenge for me, I've had to experiment with various things that help me get to the core of what's going on in my mind. And I've learned along the way that people sort out their emotions and their thoughts in a variety of ways. Some people need to see a therapist. Some people talk to a pastor or a chaplain. And I've done that in my life. But when it comes to the dailiness of it, I still need a practice that helps me process myself. And what I have found to be most effective is to have a journal and to write out my thoughts and to process myself with words. Now, what I found to be quite interesting, and I hope this is helpful, because sometimes people say, well, I don't even know what to write. If I were to start a journal, what am I supposed to write to? Is it supposed to be like a diary where I just write out my activities of the day, or is it something more than that? Well, it kind of depends really on what it is that you want to work on. For me, I have found that it's helpful to start with, you know what? I feel X. I feel lonely. I feel frustrated. I feel discouraged. I feel delighted. I feel hopeful. And in the processing of that emotion, to say, well, what's behind that? Why am I feeling lonely? Why am I discouraged? What happened? And then maybe write out some activities or some conversations or encounters that I had that may have contributed to how I feel and how I'm thinking. And one of the things that I have found so helpful about the journaling process is that I discover what I'm needing as I write. In other words, as I start my journal entry, it's not like I know where I'm going. It's not like I know what this is going to lead to. I just start writing. And as I start putting some words on a paper, I begin to understand, okay, so this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. This is how that's connected. And it's as I write it out that it becomes more clear. And for me, it's like one of those things that takes all the jumbled thoughts and emotions that if I just leave in my head, become confusing and overwhelming. And when I put it on the paper, it gives me a way to process myself. It gives me a way to say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I need. This is how I want to process. And what I discover is that when I'm attentive to, yes, my spiritual disciplines and my thoughts and emotions, that it has a positive net effect on what's going on with me physically too. And that makes it worth it.